In this video, we will look at Python data types. We can look at programming as a problem-solving discipline. And in that case, we will need data for processing and analysis. And this data comes in different types like numbers or words or even a list of things. And so let us take a look at the data types that we have in Python. There is the integer data type, which is used to represent whole numbers, negatives, 0, and then positives. There is also the float, which is used to represent floating point numbers. That is numbers that have decimal places after them. And there's also a string data type, which is used for a sequence of characters. And there's also the Boolean, which can take only two values, either a true or a false. So let us go into PyCharm and see how these data types work. Let us create a Python file quickly for the data types. So data types. And then let's explore the data types one after the other. But let me introduce you to one thing in programming also we call comments. In Python, I can use this symbol, the pound or hash symbol, to indicate a comment. And comments, they are only notes to the programmer. The Python interpreter will skip this line if it is running our program. So we use it to display notes to our own self, what is going on at every point in time. So let's look at integers first. And then we said integers are numbers. So we can create a variable. We know what a variable is and how to work around it. So say num equal to 6. And there's a way in Python that we can check the type of a variable. And we use the type function. I know we have been introduced to the print function, which is used to display things to our terminal. But it happens that inside a print function, we can nest other functions, or we can do more than just passing a variable name. So you can just type. And then inside the type, we put the name of the variable that we want to check its type. So in our case, the variable is called num. And so we right click and then run. And then we see something here called class int, which is to tell us the class, or to say the type of this num variable here is int, int being the short form for the integer data type. So now let's look at a string. So a variable called name, which we take code base. And if you remember from our previous tutorial, this is supposed to be in a set of quotes. So single or double, any of them will do. Just have to be consistent. So when we replace this type here with name, and then we run our code again, you will see that now it will change from int to str, telling us that this type is a string. And then let's run it again for the floating point numbers. So float, and maybe pi, which is a 3.142, so 3.142. And then we change this print from name to pi, and then run our code. You see that the type of pi is float because it has decimals in it. That is why it is telling us that the type of pi is float. So that is the difference between the integer and then the float, even though they are all numbers. Once it has decimals behind it, it is a float instead of an integer. And then to the last data type that we looked at, we talked about Boolean, and we said that it can only take two things, that is true or false. So let's create a variable eating, that is to ask whether the user has eaten, and then here we type true, and the T is capitalized. The T is capitalized, so make sure you capitalize it, otherwise it will throw an error. So we check the type of eating here, and then it will give us bool, which is the short form for a Boolean. And if we change this one to false, as I said, which is also capitalized, it will give the same output when we run it again, that the type is Boolean. So those are the data types in Python. So thank you for your time, and then I'll see you in the next video.